Ladies and gentlemen, in 2026, do not try to explain yourself to everyone. Not everyone deserves your story, and not everyone will understand your pain. Silence is not weakness. It is self-respect. Many people think that staying quiet means you are afraid, that you have nothing to say, or that you have accepted defeat. But silence is often the strongest answer. It means you know your value so deeply that you do not feel the need to defend it. When you stop reacting to every word, every opinion, every insult, you take your power back. You choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, dignity over drama. Self-respect begins the moment you realize that not every situation deserves your voice. Some arguments are designed to drain you, not to understand you. Some people listen only to reply, not to learn. In those moments, silence becomes a shield. It protects your energy. It protects your heart. It protects the version of you that is still healing. Speaking less does not make you smaller. It makes you selective. There is a quiet strength in knowing who you are without announcing it. When you respect yourself, you stop chasing validation. You stop explaining your choices to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop proving your pain, your growth, your intentions. Silence becomes a boundary, a clear message that says, I know my worth, and I will not negotiate it with noise. Silence is also a sign of maturity. It shows that you understand emotions without being controlled by them. Anyone can shout when they are angry. Anyone can react when they are hurt, but it takes strength to pause, to breathe, to step back and say nothing. In that pause, you choose yourself. You choose not to let temporary emotions create permanent damage. Self-respect means you trust yourself enough to stay calm in a loud world. It means you don't rush to respond just to feel seen. You allow space, you allow time, you allow things to unfold. Silence teaches you patience, and patience teaches you wisdom. When you are silent, you observe more, you understand more. You see people for who they truly are, not who they pretend to be. Many times, silence is an act of kindness to yourself. It gives your mind rest. It gives your heart room to heal. Words can reopen wounds that are trying to close. Silence lets them breathe. It lets you process pain without turning it into bitterness. It allows growth without pressure. People may misunderstand your silence. They may think you are weak, cold, or distant. Let them think what they want. Self-respect does not need approval. You do not need to explain your quiet to those who benefit from your noise. The people who truly know you will feel your strength even when you say nothing. Silence is not giving up your voice forever. It is choosing when and where your voice matters. It is knowing that your words are valuable, so you don't waste them. It is understanding that sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. When you respect yourself, you stop fighting battles that steal your peace. You stop correcting people who are not listening. You stop lowering yourself to be understood. You realize that silence is not empty. It is full of confidence, awareness, and control. In a world that demands constant reactions, choosing silence is a rebellion. It says you are grounded. It says you are secure. It says you trust your journey enough to walk it quietly, without applause, without permission, without explanation. You don't owe everyone an explanation. This truth becomes clearer the moment you start respecting your own time, energy, and emotional space. From a young age, many of us are taught to explain ourselves constantly. Our choices, our boundaries, our dreams, our pain. Slowly, this habit turns into a burden. You begin to feel guilty for living life on your own terms, as if every decision must be justified to be accepted. But maturity teaches you that your life is not a courtroom, and you are not on trial. Not everyone asking questions is looking for understanding. Some people ask to judge, some ask to compare, some ask to control. When you explain yourself to such people, you give them power they never earned. You open doors that should have remained closed. Choosing not to explain is not rude, it is protective. It is a way of saying that your inner world is valuable and not available for public discussion. There is freedom in letting go of the need to be understood by everyone. The more you grow, the fewer people will relate to your choices. Growth changes priorities, healing changes standards. Self-respect changes boundaries. When you explain every change, you slow yourself down. You start negotiating with people who are not walking your path. You start carrying opinions that were never meant to be yours. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how clearly you speak. You can use the softest words and still be misjudged. You can give long explanations and still be doubted. At some point, you realize that clarity is not always the problem, willingness is. Silence then becomes a form of wisdom. You stop explaining and start conserving your energy for things that truly matter. You don't owe explanations for choosing peace over chaos. You don't owe explanations for walking away from situations that drain you. You don't owe explanations for saying no when your heart is tired. Boundaries do not require permission slips. When you explain too much, you start justifying your right to exist as you are. Letting go of explanations also strengthens your confidence. You begin to trust yourself more. You no longer look outside for validation. You stop waiting for approval to move forward. Your decisions feel lighter because they are not tied to other people's opinions. You learn that being misunderstood is uncomfortable, but betraying yourself is unbearable. There is also dignity in privacy. Not every chapter of your life needs commentary. Not every struggle needs an audience. When you keep certain things to yourself, you protect their purity. You allow them to grow without interference. Explanation often invites advice, judgment, and comparison. Silence allows space for personal truth. People who genuinely care about you will not demand constant explanations. They will respect your boundaries even when they don't fully understand them. Those who leave because you stopped explaining were never listening to you. They were listening for control. Losing such people is not a loss, it is relief. As you grow into yourself, you realize that explanations are often a habit of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being seen as wrong, fear of being alone. When that fear fades, you stand more firmly in who you are. You act from alignment, not apology. You don't owe everyone access to your reasons, your motives, your healing process. Some things are between you and your conscience. Some choices are made in silence, for survival, for growth, for peace. When you stop explaining, you start living with more honesty, more calm, and more strength. Heal quietly, grow privately. In a world that celebrates visibility, noise, and constant sharing, choosing quiet healing is a powerful decision. Pain does not need an audience to be real, and growth does not need applause to be valid. Some of the deepest wounds heal best away from eyes that judge and voices that interrupt. Quiet healing allows honesty, because there is no pressure to perform strength when no one is watching. When you heal privately, you give yourself permission to feel without explanation. You can be weak without being labeled. You can cry without being questioned. You can sit with confusion without rushing toward answers. Healing is not a straight line, and doing it quietly lets you move at your own pace. You are not forced to look okay for the sake of others' comfort. Growing privately protects your direction. When you share plans too early, opinions begin to shape them. Doubt enters, fear grows louder. Private growth gives you space to build without interference. You strengthen your roots before showing the tree. By the time people notice change, it is already solid, already real. Quiet healing also teaches self-trust. You stop leaning on external reassurance. You begin listening inward. You learn what triggers you, what drains you, what restores you. This awareness becomes your guide. When healing is loud, it often turns into performance. When healing is quiet, it becomes transformation. Not everyone deserves to witness your becoming. Some people only want access to your pain, not your progress. They ask questions that reopen wounds. They offer advice that does not fit your journey. Healing privately keeps your process safe from unnecessary opinions. It allows your heart to soften without fear of being hurt again. Growing privately builds discipline. You show up for yourself without praise. You work when no one is watching. You change habits without announcing it. This kind of growth is stable because it is not dependent on recognition. It is built on consistency, not motivation. There is also strength in mystery. When people do not know your next move, they cannot interfere with it. Silence becomes protection. Privacy becomes power. You move differently when your life is not open for discussion. You make decisions based on alignment, not approval. Quiet healing does not mean isolation forever. It means choosing when to speak and when to stay still. It means understanding that some seasons are meant for inward work. Just like wounds need time covered to heal, the soul needs privacy to recover. Constant exposure delays healing. When you grow privately, comparison loses its grip. You are no longer measuring your progress against others. You are focused on becoming better than who you were yesterday. This focus brings peace, it brings clarity. It removes unnecessary pressure. Healing quietly also allows forgiveness to be real. You are not forgiving to look good. You are forgiving to be free. You process anger without broadcasting it. You release pain without turning it into identity. Growth then becomes lighter, more honest. People may be surprised by your transformation. They may say you changed suddenly. They did not see the nights of reflection, the silent decisions, the small daily choices. Quiet growth looks sudden from the outside, but it is slow and intentional on the inside. Heal quietly, grow privately, because the most powerful changes happen away from noise, away from judgment, away from expectation. Real strength does not announce itself. It becomes visible only when it is unshakable. Focus on progress, not on proving. The need to prove yourself often comes from old wounds, from moments when you were doubted, underestimated, or ignored. It creates a constant pressure to show results, to explain worth, to display success before it is fully built. This pressure steals joy from growth. When you focus on proving, your energy is scattered. When you focus on progress, your energy is grounded. Progress is quiet and personal. It happens in small, consistent steps that do not always look impressive from the outside. Proving is loud, it demands validation, it seeks applause. When your attention shifts toward progress, you stop asking who is watching and start asking who you are becoming. That question changes everything. Proving yourself keeps you tied to other people's opinions. Your pace becomes reactive. Your choices become performative. You begin measuring success by recognition instead of alignment. Progress, on the other hand, is internal. It is measured by discipline, clarity, and self-respect. It does not rush to be seen. When you stop proving, comparison loses its power. You no longer feel threatened by others' achievements because you are focused on your own path. You understand that everyone is carrying a different story, a different starting point, a different set of challenges. Progress allows room for patience. Proving demands urgency. Focusing on progress teaches humility. You accept that growth takes time. You allow yourself to learn without shame. You make mistakes without feeling exposed. Proving creates fear of failure. Progress accepts failure as part of the process. This acceptance creates resilience. There is also peace in working without an audience. You begin to enjoy effort for its own sake. You show up even when motivation is low. You commit even when results are not immediate. Progress builds character. Proving builds stress. When your goal is progress, you stop explaining delays. You stop justifying slow days. You understand that consistency matters more than speed. You trust that small improvements compound over time. Proving seeks shortcuts. Progress values foundation. Proving often leads to burnout. It pushes you to do more than you are ready for. It forces growth before healing. Progress respects capacity. It allows rest without guilt. It encourages balance without loss of ambition. As you focus on progress, your confidence becomes quiet but solid. You do not need to announce your plans. You do not need to defend your pace. You know where you are going. That knowing is enough. People may not notice your effort at first. They may misjudge your silence as stagnation. Progress does not react to misunderstanding, it continues. One day, the results speak without explanation. When you choose progress over proving, your journey becomes yours again. You are no longer performing strength, you are building it. You are no longer chasing validation, you are creating value. This shift changes how you work, how you think, how you move through the world. Progress allows growth to be sustainable. It respects your limits while expanding them. It is patient, disciplined, and honest. Proving is impatient, anxious, and exhausting. Focus on progress, not on proving, because real success is not loud at the beginning. It is steady, intentional, and deeply rooted long before it becomes visible. Protect your energy like it is your future. Energy is not just physical strength. It is emotional clarity, mental focus, and inner peace. Every decision you make either protects it or drains it. Many people lose years of their lives not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because their energy is constantly leaking into places that give nothing back. Your energy shapes your direction. When it is scattered, your life feels chaotic. When it is protected, your life feels intentional. Saying yes to everything slowly teaches your mind that your time does not matter. Saying no, even when it feels uncomfortable, is an act of self-respect. You are not responsible for carrying everyone else's emotional weight. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every relationship deserves access to your thoughts. Some people feed on reaction, not connection. When you engage with them, your peace becomes their entertainment. Protecting your energy means recognizing patterns early and stepping back without guilt. Mental energy is especially precious. Constant overthinking, comparison, and unnecessary worry exhaust the mind. You cannot build a future with a tired mind. Protecting your energy means choosing what you think about, what you consume, and what you allow to influence you. Silence, distance, and routine become tools of preservation. Emotional energy is often drained by unresolved attachments. Holding on to people who no longer align with you keeps your heart heavy. Letting go is not cruelty, it is clarity. Protecting your energy sometimes means choosing solitude over company that leaves you empty. Your environment plays a powerful role in how your energy flows. Chaos around you creates chaos within you. Clean spaces, structured days, and clear goals reduce mental noise. When your surroundings support you, your energy multiplies instead of disappearing. Protecting your energy also means respecting your body. Sleep, movement, and nourishment are not luxuries, they are foundations. A neglected body cannot support a focused mind. Discipline in small habits protects your future more than sudden bursts of motivation. There will be people who misunderstand your boundaries. They may call you distant, selfish, or changed. Energy protection often looks like withdrawal to those who benefited from your exhaustion. You are not obligated to stay accessible at the cost of your well-being. When you protect your energy, your decisions become clearer. You respond instead of reacting. You choose growth over drama. You invest in what builds you instead of what breaks you. This clarity creates momentum. Energy is the currency of creation. Everything you want to build requires it. Dreams do not fail because of lack of ideas. They fail because of drained energy. Protecting it is not about isolation. It is about intention. As you become more aware, you will notice how certain habits, people, and thoughts leave you depleted. Awareness is the first boundary, action is the second, consistency is the third. Protect your energy like it is your future, because it is the force that carries you forward, the fuel behind discipline, and the foundation of every meaningful change you will ever make. Let your actions answer the noise. The world is full of opinions, judgments, and unsolicited advice. Everyone has something to say about who you are, what you should do, and how you should live. If you try to respond to every voice, you lose yourself. Noise grows when attention feeds it. Actions, however, speak without arguing. Words often invite debate. Actions create clarity. When you talk too much, people focus on what you say. When you act consistently, people focus on what you become. Actions remove the need for explanation. They stand firm even when misunderstood. They do not beg for approval or react to doubt. Noise is temporary, but results are lasting. Criticism fades, rumors lose strength, opinions change. What remains is what you build. When you stay focused on action, distractions lose their grip. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. Letting your actions speak requires patience. Results take time. Progress is slow before it is visible. In the beginning, silence feels uncomfortable because the mind wants immediate validation. Action without recognition feels lonely. But this loneliness is often a sign of alignment. You are no longer performing, you are building. When you answer noise with words, you enter the other person's frame. You explain, you defend, you justify. When you answer with action, you stay in your own frame. You continue. You improve, you execute. This shift preserves dignity. Actions also build self-trust. Every time you follow through quietly, confidence grows. You stop relying on external reassurance. You begin believing in your process. This belief becomes unshakable because it is based on experience, not opinion. Noise often comes from those who are not moving. Stillness in others feels threatened by your movement. When you act, you challenge comfort. When you stay silent and continue, you expose excuses without confrontation. This makes action the most powerful response. Consistency turns action into identity. One effort can be ignored. Repeated effort cannot. Over time, your discipline becomes visible. People may not applaud at first, but they notice change. Action creates a reputation without announcements. There is also peace in letting go of the need to correct people. You realize that understanding is not always necessary. Alignment matters more than agreement. Actions keep you grounded when words try to pull you into unnecessary battles. Letting your actions answer the noise does not mean suppressing your voice forever. It means choosing timing and relevance. It means speaking when words add value, not when ego seeks relief. Silence paired with action becomes authority. Growth becomes faster when energy is not wasted on reaction. You have more focus, more clarity, more stamina. Action channels emotion into progress. Anger becomes fuel. Doubt becomes discipline. Pain becomes purpose. Over time, the noise either fades or changes tone. Doubt turns into curiosity. Criticism turns into observation. Silence becomes respect. This shift does not come from explanation. It comes from consistency. When you choose action over argument, you protect your peace. You move forward without carrying unnecessary weight. You build a life that does not need defending. Let your actions answer the noise, because execution is louder than opinion, discipline is stronger than doubt, and progress does not need permission to exist. Not everyone deserves access to your life. Access is earned, not given by default. Just because someone is curious does not mean they are trustworthy. Just because someone is close does not mean they are safe. Many people want to know what you are doing, not to support you, but to measure you, compare themselves, or feel better about their own stagnation. Your life is made of thoughts, emotions, struggles, and plans. These are sensitive spaces. Allowing the wrong people into them creates confusion. You start doubting yourself. You start explaining decisions that felt right before they were questioned. Protecting access means protecting clarity. Some people only want entry into your life during moments of vulnerability. They show interest when you are struggling, but disappear when you are stable. Others want access during success, but were silent during hardship. Discernment teaches you to notice patterns, not words. You are allowed to be selective without being cruel. Boundaries are not punishment, they are protection. When you limit access, you are not closing your heart. You are placing it in safer hands. This allows deeper connections with fewer people instead of shallow connections with many. Oversharing often comes from the desire to be understood. But not everyone has the emotional capacity to understand you. Sharing personal details with the wrong audience turns your truth into gossip, your dreams into doubt, and your pain into entertainment. Privacy creates strength. When people know less about your plans, they cannot interfere. When they know less about your struggles, they cannot use them against you. Silence becomes a form of control, not secrecy, but sovereignty. Access should align with intention. Who listens without judging, who supports without controlling, who respects your boundaries without questioning them. These are the people who earn proximity. Not everyone who has history with you deserves future access. Growth changes roles. Some people were meant for a season, not a lifetime. Holding on to outdated connections out of loyalty drains your present. Limiting access also helps you know yourself better. When fewer voices are present, your own voice becomes clearer. Decisions feel lighter. Direction feels stronger. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. People may react when access is reduced. They may feel entitled. They may accuse you of changing. Change is not betrayal. It is evolution. Anyone who demands access rather than respecting boundaries is proving why limitation was necessary. There is power in being private. Mystery shifts dynamics. You are no longer predictable or available on demand. This forces others to respect distance. It also teaches you self-sufficiency. Not everyone deserves access to your joy either. Some people cannot celebrate without jealousy. Protecting happiness is as important as protecting pain. Silence preserves both. As you mature, you stop confusing attention with care. Real care does not require constant updates. It respects silence, it honors space, it trusts your autonomy. Choosing who gets access is one of the highest forms of self-respect. It shapes the quality of your life more than the quantity of people in it. When access is intentional, peace becomes consistent, and your life feels less exposed and more aligned. Become so strong that silence feels natural. Strength is often misunderstood as loud confidence, sharp replies, and constant presence. Real strength is calm. It does not rush to speak. It does not panic when ignored. It does not feel threatened by misunderstanding. When you are truly strong, silence no longer feels heavy. It feels normal. In the beginning, silence can feel uncomfortable. The mind wants to explain, to react, to correct. Ego wants to be seen and heard, but as inner strength grows, the need to respond fades. You realize that not every moment requires your voice. Some moments require your stability. Strength comes from self-knowledge. When you know who you are, words lose urgency. You no longer fear being misjudged because your identity is not fragile. Silence then becomes a reflection of certainty, not confusion. Becoming strong means regulating emotions instead of being ruled by them. Anger does not control your tongue. Hurt does not demand instant expression. You learn to pause. That pause is power. In it you choose response over reaction. Silence becomes natural when you trust your process. You stop announcing effort. You stop narrating struggle. You allow growth to happen without commentary. This trust removes anxiety. You are not waiting for feedback to continue. Inner strength also changes how you see people. You no longer need to convince them. You no longer need to win conversations. You understand that alignment matters more than agreement. Silence protects that alignment. Strong people do not explain boundaries repeatedly. They set them once and let silence enforce them. They do not chase understanding, they allow distance to speak. As strength develops, attention shifts inward. External noise loses volume, opinions lose weight, validation loses appeal. Silence becomes comfortable because you are no longer looking outward for permission. There is a deep peace in not reacting. It conserves energy, it keeps the nervous system calm. Strength is felt in the body before it is shown in behavior. Silence supports that calm. Becoming strong also means accepting loneliness without bitterness. Growth often creates distance. Silence accompanies that distance. When you are strong, you do not fill emptiness with noise. You sit with it. You learn from it. Silence becomes natural when confidence is internal. You do not need to prove intelligence, morality, or capability. Your life reflects it. Strength removes urgency. Strong people understand timing. They know when words add value and when they dilute it. Silence sharpens communication. Fewer words carry more weight. You begin to notice that silence unsettles those who expect reaction. This is not intentional control. It is a byproduct of stability. Strength disrupts patterns without confrontation. As you grow stronger, silence stops feeling like suppression. It feels like choice. You are not silent because you are afraid. You are silent because you are grounded. Strength is built through discipline, consistency, and self-honesty. Silence is the natural posture of someone who is no longer seeking approval. When strength becomes identity, silence becomes ease. You move without announcing, you endure without explaining, you grow without permission. Silence becomes the language of someone who is secure within themselves.